Hello everybody, Carol Garrison here with Carol's Creative Escape. Today is Monday, January 27th, and it is time for another Make It Monday. I hope everybody's had a great week. Last week I think I was telling people that we had, below 30 in our temps and stuff, bitter cold, not a lot of fun to be around. This weekend it started warming up. Today we were at 37 degrees, and I think on Thursday we might actually hit about 50 degrees. A lot of that temp is a little warmer than we normally would be, but it's due to the fact that we really don't have any snow at all on the ground, which always makes things a little bit warmer for us. So I'm kind of excited about that. Had a busy weekend. Got to finally see White Christmas at a dinner theater in the metro area, which seems kind of funny this long after Christmas, but it was actually the first weekend that we could get tickets when I started looking back in October. So it was fun to be able to do that and actually purchase tickets to go see Grease later on this summer at the same theater. So that was fun. Yesterday we finally took our Christmas lights down outside, mostly because it was warm enough that we could be out there and doing that. And then had a real nice dinner party with my husband's employer. So that was nice, kind of their awards banquet. So just a busy weekend, but a lot of fun stuff that we got to do. So that was great. Anyhow, enough about me. Let's get started here. Tonight, I am going to show you how to make a double fold front gate card type thing with just a little bit of a difference in how we create it to add a little bit of detail to the front of the card. I've always liked gatefold cards just because it is a simple card to do. But what's cool about this one is it's actually made, the base of the card is actually using designer series paper. And it's one of those opportunities where we can show off both sides of the paper. And I always like when I can do that. I love designer series paper. And it's just fun to be able to do fun things with the cards. So let me flip over. Hey, April, how are you? Let me flip my camera over here and we will get started. Temporarily. There we go. I bumped a button when I was flipping things over. That's never a good feeling. Yikes. All right. Whoops. I did that all by myself. No cats helped me create that. And I'm just verifying that I'm actually showing up in the right spot on my Facebook page. My goodness. There we go. A lovely close-up of my chin. Yep. And we're going to flip that down so we're not hearing me talk on my one camera. Just takes a minute or two. Now, like I announced in my last video, I am no longer with Stampin' Up. Not because of anything Stampin' Up did. I just started looking around at my supplies and realized I have more than I need to work with, probably for the next 100 years. And that I wanted to focus, instead of selling product, helping people use up their stash. I'm kind of like somebody who sews, except my fabric is paper instead of cloth. And it's time that we start using some of those things. And so that is what I'm going to do tonight. Now, one of the things, if you've watched any of my videos, I do like to make templates of my cards, simply because I can write measurements on it, whatever I need to do. And I don't have to worry about remembering that or hanging on to a specific card. I just have a box full of templates. And that's what I did with this one tonight, because it does help kind of to have a visual. So if that's something that you think might be helpful to you, go ahead and give it a try. What I've got right here is my template. When I make my templates, I tend not to care what paper I grab. They may or may not match. When I do my layers, it's just literally placeholders to help me know my measurements. So this is the double front gatefold card. You can see that it's got normal gatefold cards would kind of be just this part, not this extra flap here. And because it's got these extra flaps, that's where it becomes the double gatefold card. And so to create this, what you really need is a piece of designer series paper. that measures 5.5 by 12 inches, and you're going to score it at 2, 4, 8, and 10 inches. The other thing that you're going to do on here, and you can't really see it, but I've taken my ruler and I've marked down 2 3/4 inches here and here. And that's going to be important because that's where we're going to cut this corner off. This middle piece is going to be 3.5 by 5 inches. And I'm kind of going monotone on my inside of my card, using the Highland Heather cardstock from Stampin' Up, which goes with this designer series paper. It's light enough you can write on it, so you don't always need to do, you know, white on the inside. That's my go-to, but when it's a light color that I can use on the inside, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then the other thing that you need is whatever you want for this centerpiece, your eye candy kind of, and it can be whatever shape that you want. I am going to go ahead and use circles for the one that I want to use. And I did use the Wildflower Path stamps and Painted Lavender stamps. Both of those do happen to be Stampin' Up stamps. Both of them are the photopolymer stamps. And I went ahead and using a 2.5 inch punch, cut a circle, a 2 1/4 inch punch, and then I went ahead and colored the Painted Lavender stamp. I used markers to do that. If you have the Copic pens or the blends, you don't necessarily want to color those onto your photopolymer stamps because they will stain it, but the markers did not stain it, and I was able to get my 2 colors going in there so that I could have my green stems. I've also, like I said, used the wildflower stamps to get the happy birthday sentiment. And then I have cut a couple dies from the corresponding dies for this set in case I want to use those, which I think I do, just to make these flowers pop a little bit. So to make this card, I'm going to do a little bit of cutting first because I want you to see how to do that. And I am going to take my trimmer and I'm just going to line up. I know it doesn't show up very much on here, but I am going to line up on that score line, and right here where I've got my tick mark. I don't know if I can, I don't think I can make it bigger, but my tick mark is right here, and then my score line is right here. Both of those lines are right in the trough, the cutting trough. And so I'm going to close this down and just go like that, and I get my 1 triangle. We'll set that aside. And they're going to repeat that process. Sometimes it helps just to fold that a little bit. And you're going to, again, line up the score line and my tick mark. Close it down and cut it. Now, one word of warning when you are using the design paper like this, the designer paper, make sure that you are not pressing down super hard when you go and score. It's not like cardstock. This is thinner paper, and so you want to make sure that you're not pressing so hard that you're actually breaking the fibers enough to cut or even tear that just a little bit. That is all the trimming that we need to do for this card. So the first thing I'm going to do now that that's done is go ahead and fold this over. We'll grab our bone folder and burnish that, and then we'll fold this backwards. Okay? Now, my particular design does have a definite up-down sort of pattern to it, so I do recognize that my triangle pieces may be upside down when we go to add them, but because of this design, it's not going to matter that much. Now, the one thing that you need to do is when we cut these, they came off the corners like this, okay? We are going to switch the sides that our corners go on, and that way the angles will be right to create kind of that diamond in the middle. Does that make sense? So I'm just flip-flopping Now, why isn't that not working? This one is going to go, oh, that's because how I cut it. Think it through. Yep, I had them backwards when I put them on here. All right, there, we'll get them lined up. So this one is going to fall into this corner, and this one will fall into that corner. We're just going to go opposites. And good grief, that is still not working. It should be opposite corners. I did this last week too, where I got a little bit surprised. So this is here. This is here. This is here, and this is here. Not opposite corners, but going down. It's just using my right words. All right. Sorry for that confusion. Again, this is kind of an all over. Yes, it does have a up and down when you're looking at big pieces, but I think for what we're doing, it's going to be just fine to go like that, and we're not really going to know about that. If it really bothers you, just make sure that the pattern you're using for your paper is an all over pattern and not one that has a definite up and down, and it won't be an issue. So we are just going to take our tape runner and adhere. Oops, get our adhesive on here. Now, you may go off a little bit on the edge, and I do really like to get a little bit of tape, not quite that much, on that tip so that it's adhered well. So I'm just going to take my tape. You could use the adhesive, liquid adhesive, and do the same thing, but this works. Do what works best for you. And we're just going to attach this triangle right here in the corner. You're just going to line it up, and it should go about to that point. These may not always line up perfectly, simply because paper may not be cut, you know, square, that type of thing. Whoops, it helps if I run it the correct way. And that's all right. If it's really off and bugging you, you can go ahead and trim off any of the extra. I had one card where it was very obvious, and then I had another one of these that I made that it really didn't show that much. So each piece of paper is going to be a little bit different. All right, and then once again, we are going to put a little bit of adhesive sticking out there. We're just going to line this up like so. All right, and that gives us that diamond look on the front of our card. I think that's really cool, and like I said, one of the things I love about this layout is that we can use both sides of the paper and show that off. Our papers are so pretty, and it doesn't really matter what the brand. If you've got papers that look good front and back together, this is a great card for that, allowing you to show it off. All right, then we are going to take this. You could stamp on here if you wanted to. I am choosing to leave it blank so that I can write a note to the recipient, but it would be perfectly acceptable to stamp on there if you chose to. And I'm just lining this up in the center. Remember, if you look at this corner and they're even, then this corner and that corner will be even as well. And we're going to go like that. And then we will assemble our centerpiece. So basic layers here of our circle. That part's pretty easy. I hadn't fully figured out yet how I was going to use my greens. And so I figured that's something we'd work on here. I do know that I want this piece popped up. So I'm going to grab a couple dimensionals. And go like that. And then I think I might even have these sprigs hanging off just a little bit. I am going to trim that bottom off because I don't want it to go like that. We'll just go like that. This one's going to be even shorter, so I think I'm just going to use this chunk. Hey, look at that. I even got an extra chunk to spare. All right. So we'll kind of put these on like this, and then I'm just going to hold these in place with the dimensionals on the back of this piece. You could put adhesive down. Actually, that might not be a bad idea. I'm just going to put a little piece in the middle there so that I can hold these down. But I also know that that adhesive is going to be covered up by my flowers here, so I'm not worried about that. And we're just going to put that on. And then I've got my happy birthday sentiment, which I actually stamped a couple times before I had it centered where I wanted it. Good thing we've got two sides to our paper. I think, yep, this is wide enough that I can use these dimensionals. I am going to put one on either end, but because this is a slightly longer piece, I am going to put one right in the middle too, just so it doesn't sag. You could also use the mini dimensionals, the slightly smaller dimensionals, if you wanted to. Actually, I am not going to put this in the middle. And the reason for that is I forgot my placement. I am going to put just a teeny bit of tape runner. And that is because my sentiment is going to go over the bottom. So if I had a dimensional, it's going to be even higher. And with that said, this was a part I did not think through. I do not need this dimensional either. And you'll see why in just a second. I am going to keep this dimensional because I think is going to help hold everything down here. So we'll just adhere that, and then I'm going to press that down so it sticks. And I'm not going to worry. Actually, I am going to worry. I am going to put one more dimensional as I look at it. Just right here, so it's off the flowers, but it's still going to be on the circle. I just don't want the dimensionals hanging off on the back side where they're going to get sticky. But that'll hold my sentiment on tight. Then when we attach this, the one thing that we need to do is make sure we're only putting adhesive on one half. It doesn't really matter what half you put it on, but you don't want it on both halves because then you'd not be able to open your... I just realized I'm not on camera. I'm so sorry. We're only going to put adhesive on this half. And that's because we don't want it on both halves, which would prevent us from being able to open up this card if it was stuck on both sides. So I am just going to, it doesn't really matter which half you put it on. I am left-handed, so I tend to put things on left sides. Totally up to you which side that you want to do it. And then I am going to have it centered when I put it on here. But because I've only got it on half, I'm not worried about it sticking. And that gives us this front of the card. And I think that turned out really pretty. It pulls out some of the color that is in my paper, but also keeps this as the focal point. Now, there are some fun gems and things that I've got that we could also put on this card. I've got the gold butterflies, and as I look at them, as much as I like those butterflies, I'm not sure gold is the right color to go with this one, so I'm not going to use those. I am, however, going to use these colored gemstones, purple fine shimmer gems. They actually were part of the suite that came with this paper and everything, so these colors are all going to match. And I am going to just put a couple onto my card. and leave it like that. So that just adds a little bit more design to the front of the card without overwhelming it. And there you go, the double front fold, double gatefold card. Super easy. So again, your measurements are a 5.5 by 12 inch piece of designer series paper. You will score it at 2 inches, 4 inches, 8 inches, and 10 inches. And then you'll make a mark at the 2 3/4 point on the side of the paper. And you will cut an angle from here to here. And again from here to here. And that'll give you these 2 pieces of designer series paper. This inside piece is 3.5 by 5 inches. And then you can choose whatever shape, whatever size you want to put on the front here. Make it large enough to hold your focal point, whatever, if it's going to be a stamp or, as I did, some die cut stamping images, and let it go and just create that front card. I hope that you like this card as much as I do. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. This is one of those nights where I don't really have a sample I can show you, except for this template that I made. So I pictured this, but wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And I have to say, I'm feeling pretty good about it. If you have any questions, just post it in the comments and I'll be sure to give you any help that you may need. If you do create this card, please be sure to post it down in the comments. I think the greatest thing we can do is share our creativity with others and help them find their own creativity as well. And if something you or I create inspires someone to do something, what greater compliment can we receive? So take care, everybody. We will see you next week. Hard to believe that is already going to be February 3rd. I don't know where our time is going. But have a great week, and we will see you soon. Thank you.